At Sparta, Telemachus found a palace shining with gold. He and Pisistratus arrived while Menelaus was celebrating two marriages, his son's at home and his daughter's departure to the son of Achilles. Music filled the hall. Guests crowded the tables. A servant hesitated to admit two strangers during the feast. Menelaus heard him and was indignant. Had they forgotten how often they themselves had depended on the hospitality of strangers before reaching home? The travelers were brought inside, bathed, clothed, and seated beside the king. Telemachus stared at the bronze, gold, silver, amber, and ivory around him. The palace seemed as brilliant as the court of Zeus. Menelaus overheard. He said no mortal house could equal Olympus, yet his wealth had been gathered through 8 years of wandering, and he would surrender much of it to recover the men who died at Troy. Above all, he mourned Odysseus. At that name, Telemachus covered his face and wept. Menelaus recognized the grief before he recognized the sun. Then Helen entered the hall. She looked at the stranger and saw the likeness at once. "This must be Odysseus's son," she said. "He was an infant when the Greeks sailed to war." Pisistratus confirmed it. Telemachus had come seeking news of his father. Grief passed around the table. For Odysseus, for Menelaus's brother Agamemnon, for Ajax, and for Pisistratus's brother Antilochus. At last Pisistratus asked that they not spend the whole feast in mourning. Helen mixed a drug from Egypt into the wine, a medicine said to quiet sorrow for a day. Then she told a story from Troy. Odysseus had beaten and disguised himself as a slave before entering the city alone. Only Helen recognized him. She bathed him, clothed him, and swore not to expose him. He learned the Trojans' plans, killed several defenders, and returned safely to the Greek camp. Menelaus answered with another memory. When the wooden horse stood inside Troy, Helen walked around it, calling to the hidden warriors in the voices of their wives. Men inside nearly answered. Odysseus held them silent. He even covered one man's mouth until the danger passed. Telemachus listened, but courage had not saved his father from disappearance. They slept in the palace. At dawn, Menelaus asked why Telemachus had come. Telemachus described the suitors overrunning his home, slaughtering his animals, consuming his stores, and pressing his mother to marry one of them. Menelaus was furious. Weak men had settled into the house of a strong one. If Odysseus returned with the strength Menelaus remembered, their courtship would end in blood. Then he told Telemachus what he had learned in Egypt. Storms had trapped Menelaus on the island of Pharos. His ships lay idle while his men grew hungry. The sea god Proteus knew the way home, but the old shapeshifter would reveal nothing willingly. Proteus's daughter Ithaca took pity on Menelaus. She hid him and 3 companions beneath sealskins among the sleeping seals. When Proteus emerged from the sea and counted his herd, they seized him. The god became a lion, a serpent, a leopard, a boar, running water, and a tree. The men held on through every shape. At last Proteus yielded. He told Menelaus how to appease the gods and leave Egypt. He also revealed the fates of the Greeks. Ajax had survived the sea, then boasted that he had escaped against the will of the gods. Poseidon struck the rock beneath him and swept him away. Agamemnon had reached home only to be murdered, but Odysseus was alive. Proteus had seen him on a distant island, held by the nymph Calypso. He had no ship, no crew, and no way to leave. Telemachus finally possessed something more solid than hope. His father lived, though he remained far from home. Menelaus asked him to stay and offered gifts. Telemachus declined the horses because rocky Ithaca had no broad fields for them. The king admired the answer and promised him a mixing bowl of silver with a rim of gold, made by Hephaestus and given to Menelaus on his travels. But while Telemachus received news in Sparta, danger gathered behind him. In Ithaca, the suitors discovered that he had truly sailed away. Antinous was astonished that the young man they mocked had found a crew and escaped their watch. He chose a ship and 20 men. They would wait in the narrow sea between Ithaca and Same, then kill Telemachus as he returned. A herald overheard the plot and carried it to Penelope. Until that moment, no one had told her that her son had left. Now she learned both that he was at sea and that armed men were preparing an ambush. Her knees failed. She accused her servants of concealing the journey and begged them to send word to Telemachus's grandfather. The nurse Euryclea confessed that she had known, but Telemachus had made her swear silence. She urged Penelope to wash, pray to Athena, and not alarm the old man. Penelope prayed for her son. Then she lay down, exhausted. Athena sent a phantom in the likeness of Penelope's sister. The image told her that Telemachus would return, because the gods had not abandoned him. But when Penelope asked whether Odysseus still lived, the phantom would not answer. Off the coast, the suitors sailed through the night and took their position near the island of Asteris. Telemachus had crossed the sea to find his father. He had learned that Odysseus was alive. Now he would have to survive the journey home.